Hello everyone, I'm Ajahn Pran and I'm here with Ajahn Matthew. So we are gonna talk about the quite hot issue recently about the Israel-Iran war, or what Donald Trump coined 12 days war, right? Okay, so let's begin with the current situation. So what is the current situation now, Matthew? How is it going?
Well, at the moment, there has been the ceasefire that seems to be holding. So after 12 days of quite intense bombardment by Israel in Iran and the retaliation of the missile strikes on Israel, they have reached a ceasefire, and it's a kind of uneasy ceasefire, I think I would say, because Iran is now threatening to pull out of the non-proliferation agreement, and you know, who knows, there may be further attacks by the US and Israel on Iran. So
so it's despite ceasefire, it's still right. It's quite open end. Yeah. So okay. Yeah. We go to the historical background first, right? Yeah, of course, the IR, we cannot be separated from history. So, yeah, could you tell us about the historical background on the Israel and Iran relationship?
Yeah, sure. So we obviously had the foundation of the State of Israel, 1948, after the Second World War, and at that time, the Iranian state, the Iranian regime was not an enemy of Israel. The Shah was in power, and relations weren't bad. But of course, with the Iranian Revolution and the foundation of the Islamic Republic, then things started to change, and ever since then there has been very difficult relations between the two. So I think this is a continuation of many years of hostility and suspicion, and so that's what I would say about the recent history.
So since the Islamic Revolution in 1979, I would say. Yeah, so I may add a bit more on the historical side, but as a disclaimer, I'm not the expert, right, in MENA or Iran, but I'm take charge of the international history, so have a little bit of interest on Iran, and for the personal reason, I have a lot of Iranian friends, and they are nice and they have good food, so that make me have some interest, and it's more like my hobby to study about them. Yeah, very nerd hobby, but anyway. So yeah, but as I know, right, like more on the historical side, they have been an arch enemy, right, as you say, since the 1979, right, and they said, as I know, they have done quite a lot, right? The big U-turn that they, for example, the theocratic regime, which still now they recognize Palestine, right, instead of Israel, and they turned the Israel embassy to that of Palestine up until today, and my Iranian friend told me, even in one section of their constitution, one of their national goal is is the realization of the Palestine state. So it's a real deal, right, for the Iranian regime, and that's, well, in IR term, maybe both was the the perceived threat, right, like the both for each other, yeah, and I think for the foreign policy of Iran, I think they have done quite a significant policy line of the creating the client state, right, or the proxy, would say, lots of non-state actors, right, and I think most of our audience would know or heard of them, like like Houthis, right, in Yemen or Hezbollah, or the recently overthrown Assad regime in Syria, right? And well, to some extent, Hamas, right? And the Iranian regimes have been said that they want to create this axis of resistance, right, as the buffer against Israel. And I think for the past 2 years after October 7, right, the Hamas surprise attack on Israel, the IDF, or the Israel Defense Force, have been neutralized. Hamas and Hezbollah, they just assassinated the leader, and Assad regime just been overthrown. So I think for them is right. It seems like Iranians' axis of resistance is crumbling, and maybe it's perfect time to strike, right? And yeah, it's quite a
I think
surprise attack,
there's no question they have been successful in degrading the capacities of Hamas, Hezbollah, maybe even the Houthis as well in Yemen. Israel have been bombing Yemen as well. So perhaps they did think at this point in history now is the time to realize their long-term aim, I think, of attacking Iran, and if not forcing regime change, then causing significant damage, and really, pushing back the nuclear program of Iran.
Pushing back the Okay, speaking of the nuclear program, so they have been the nuclear deal before, right? And why did it fail? Right? Can you tell us about that?
Well, I think it's quite simple, really. From what I understand, the Iran nuclear deal was agreed by the P5+1. So this was the most powerful states came together, and along with Iran, they agreed to limit the Iranian nuclear program in exchange for sanctions relief and economic benefits. So it was really a quid pro quo, I think, and at the time, Iran had obligations to accept weapons inspectors as well, who were seemingly permitted to go anywhere in Iran to monitor the Iranian nuclear program. And it seemed at the time like Iran was fulfilling its obligations. The weapons inspectors said that they didn't see anything that was that would call into question Iran's willingness to abide by the deal. Iran was obviously getting something from that deal in terms of economic benefits. So I think the general understanding was that Iran nuclear deal was working and it was serving its purpose. But then Donald Trump was elected, and he from the very beginning was against this deal. I think he called it the worst deal in history or something like that. You always
have this kind of terms. Okay,
this kind of hyperbole that he usually uses, and he unilaterally pulled the United States out of the Iran nuclear deal, and this was really the end of the deal, because it meant also that European companies, if they continued to do trade with Iran, then they would be subject to penalties, and that was going to dissuade them from participating and establishing relations with Iran, and so this unilateral decision by Trump was really the end of the deal. There was not much point continuing without the United States. So, and then of course afterwards, what does Iran do? I mean, they're not getting anything from this deal anymore. And then, according to reports, then Iran started to enrich more nuclear material, and we have the same dilemma again. People are fearful that Iran will develop a nuclear weapon.
Yeah,
But I
again,
think,
right? Yeah.
but in my own opinion, I think this could have been avoided really, unless there was really tangible evidence that Iran was not fulfilling its obligations. But it seemed to be the opposite actually.
And so far, as you said, right, most of the evidence that was revealed, it point out that the Iran have no intention of doing that. So far, like as we know, and for the nuclear deal, right? And actually, there was going on, right, like before the June 13th of the attack, and actually 2 days before. 2 days after the attack, there have been the schedule for talk and deal, right? But now I think it's very unlikely, right? And as you said, the Iranian parliament already voted to leave the IAEA and all of the weapon inspection, and we're back to the dilemma again. But anyway, back to the war. So, what do you think, like, from your perspective, what are the objectives of the Israel to launch this surprise attack on Iran?
Well, I think there are, we could mention 3 objectives. 2 of them have been stated quite clearly by Israeli officials, and one I think we can infer from the actions of Israel in the Middle East and North Africa. So the first main reason, as they said, was they wanted to destroy or at least degrade the Iran nuclear program. They assassinated some of Iran's top nuclear scientists. They were targeting nuclear facilities throughout the country. It's difficult to say how successful they were, but it seems they definitely had some success on that objective. But some people have been arguing that all this is going to do is make it more likely that Iran pursues nuclear weapons in the future, because then they would have a deterrent against these kind of attacks.
Classic neo-realist, right?
Exactly.
Into the textbook.
So this was the first objective anyway, the stated objective by Israeli officials. The second one was that of regime change. Israeli officials were making it quite clear that they favoured a change in the regime. They wanted the Ayatollah Khamenei gone. They even said he was a legitimate target for assassination as well. And they were inciting opposition groups within Iran to rise up and even overthrow the Iranian government. Of course, this did not happen, and some people argue that it had the opposite effect of people coming together and rallying around the national identity against the enemy of Israel, the common enemy they had. So that was the second objective. The third one, which I think we can infer, is to destabilize Iran, and I think this fits in perhaps with an overall strategy of Israel to destabilize their adversaries in the Middle East, North Africa region. This is a point made by John Mearsheimer as well, and so Israel supported the US-UK war in Iraq, which we know caused devastation and chaos in
like 20 years ago, right?
In Iraq. They were certainly in favor of Bashar al-Assad being removed, and we know Syria has been in chaos in recent years also, and they also supported the NATO war in Libya to remove Gaddafi. He was another adversary of Israel's. They were certainly not sad to see him go either. So, I think this is basically the divide and conquer strategy, isn't it? That if your adversaries, your enemies are all divided and in civil conflict, then you can project your power, your military power, more in the region. according to this vision, you will have less threats coming from these adversarial states. So that for me seems to be the third objective is creating instability in Iran.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, well, now it's like on a ceasefire, right? But now we cannot estimate whether how much success that Israel 3 objectives have been achieved. But anyway, let's see. But now I think I think that's what they aim to do, right? But how much success they got is another story. So okay, let's talk about like what is your topics, right? I mean your subject, right, of geopolitics. So how does this war, right, the current war, fit into the broader geopolitical context in the Middle East?
Okay, so I think the Palestinian question is clearly important. Iran has been a strong, overt supporter of the Palestinian cause, and it's quite well known, I think, that they have been supporting Hamas along with other proxies in the region, Hezbollah and the Houthis, as we mentioned. I didn't actually know that there were provisions in the Iranian constitution. I found this out from you, Pran, that that they have a provision that they have to support Palestine.
Yeah, I know it from my Iranian friend. I have to recheck, but I cannot read Persian, right? But anyway, we will recheck that. Yeah.
So this I think explains this geopolitical code of Iran in the region, which is to support Palestine and oppose Israel. So this I think is clearly important. The broader geopolitical dynamics of the MENA region are also very, very interesting, and I think to understand these dynamics can help us explain the war as well. So and for that we have to look at Iran and Israel's relations with the Gulf monarchies. Particularly Saudi Arabia. So authors and commentators have been talking for a very long time about this geopolitical rivalry between Saudi Arabia and Iran in the region, and we've seen evidence of this rivalry in some of the civil wars that have been going on in Syria, in Iraq, in Yemen, and so. But this geopolitical struggle, I don't think we can understand it in terms of Sunni versus Shia Islam. It's more, for me, it has always been more about the political systems and ideology. And all of this is stemming back to the Iranian Revolution as well. So with the overthrow of the Shah, the installation of the Islamic Republic, this becomes a security threat to the Gulf monarchies. You know, this Islamic revolutionary ideology clearly poses a threat to these monarchies. It becomes a question of legitimacy. Which governments are the legitimate leaders of the Arab and Muslim world, and the leaders of Islam in the region. So for me, this regional conflict between Saudi Arabia and Iran has been very important in recent times. Now, the interesting thing is that recently, I think this dynamic has led to improved relations between Saudi Arabia, the Gulf monarchies on the one hand, and Israel on the other. So we've had the Abraham Accords, which are trying to promote peace and stability in the region, and Israel has normalized relations with Arab states like the UAE and Bahrain. And seemingly Saudi Arabia was going to be next in normalizing relations with Saudi Arabia.
On the way, right? Yeah. Quite likely, yeah.
It seemed, and they were the narrative had changed, that all of a sudden Israel was not being seen as a threat, or but then of course the war started, the Hamas attacks on Israel, and the Israeli response, the the quite brutal response by Israel, and all of this has changed again. It seems this rapprochement between Saudi Arabia and Israel, it seems to be off now. There doesn't.
Yeah, seems like that. Yeah,
there hasn't been any progress recently. It's very difficult for Saudi Arabia to continue with this process as there is what many people believe to be a genocide taking place against the Palestinian people. This would be impossible, I think, for Saudi Arabia. And in fact, what we've seen in recent times is we've actually seen another interesting development where Saudi Arabia and Iran now seem to be on a path of rapprochement. This was mediated by China. There was an agreement in 2023 to improve relations, and there has been tangible progress in this improvement. Saudi Arabia and Iran have reopened their embassies. They have had several meetings, and what has happened really is the opposite of probably what Israel wanted to happen. Saudi Arabia and Iran have improved relations, and the narrative has changed again. Now it seems like it's not Iran that's the destabilizing influence in the region. It's actually Israel, and that's been another consequence of the war in Gaza and the recent war between Iran and Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia condemned Israel's attack on Iran.
Right? Yeah, officially, right? Yeah, if I'm not wrong.
It's been a flagrant breach of international law. So again, it would seem like Israel has got a lot of work to do if it wants to improve relations with some of these powerful Arab states in the region.
Okay, So, that's from the in the region. So, and how does the U.S. of course has been involved in the Middle East for quite some time, and the U.S. and the powerful European states will won this war so far. Well,
this for me is a very interesting question. How does the U.S. fit into all of this? With the Israel's war on Gaza, Israel's war with Iran. Firstly, with Israel's war on Gaza, the United States has, of course, been supporting Israel with military aid and sending weapons to Israel, but it has very much been kind of taking a back seat and putting the emphasis on Israel, that this is Israel's war. We're not involved in this, and we're on the sidelines. We're supporting our ally, but this is the Israeli government's their own
doing, right?
Their own doing, exactly. Which I just think it cannot be the case. No. John Mearsheimer has been very insistent on saying that he believes that this U.S. support for Israel doesn't make any sense from a realist perspective. And he says that he concludes that it's the Israeli lobby that is
his classic work, right?
That is influencing U.S. policy against its own interests. Now, I think the problem with this explanation is that it kind of obscures the very prominent position of the Middle East in the U.S. geopolitical imagination historically. For many years, decades, Western powers have tried to establish and maintain hegemony over the Middle East. First the British and the French, later the US after World War II.
Since after the First World War, right? Actually,
even after the First World War, and there are geopolitical and geostrategic reasons for that. That they, according to their calculations, they want to control the supply of oil and gas. They want to control trade routes like the Suez Canal, for example. These are considered choke points in geopolitics. Now, some people think that the US has kind of moved away from the Middle East in recent times. I think maybe they conclude that because the US has developed its own hydrocarbon sector and maybe is less reliant on fossil fuels in the Middle East. But I'm very skeptical about this. I think that the US, the Middle East remains a critical interest for the US. The control over the economy of the oil and gas economy and trade routes as well, that remains, and perhaps even more so given that China and its Belt and Road Initiative
the BRI, right?
is going to be going through the Middle East, right?
I think Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Iran, right? So all of it,
so I think from the US perspective and its vision of the Middle East, it is seeing China trying to increase its economic power in the region, and as Colin Flint says, this Belt and Road Initiative, it cannot simply be an economic initiative. It is also a geopolitical initiative. You have geopolitics and geoeconomics, and they go together. And all of this, I believe, is seen as a threat by the United States to its hegemony in the region. And so for me, the point is that there are ample reasons why the United States would want to struggle to maintain its hegemony in the MENA region. And from this perspective, it's vital that they prevent Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons, from growing stronger, gaining in power more generally, and for any competitors, moving into the region. And Israel is a key part of this overall strategy for me. There's an interesting metaphor that Professor Michael Hudson uses, and it's of Israel being a grounded aircraft carrier in the region, which they can use to put it in, maybe not the best terms, but to do the dirty work for the United States in the region, and having this quite extreme right-wing government in Israel is maybe even better for them. So I think there are many reasons why the United States would want to get involved in keeping Iran from getting a nuclear weapon, preventing Iran from growing in power, and supporting Israel in the region. If I can just make a couple of comments about the European powers as well, very, very quickly.
Please.
They have clearly been more critical of Israel than the United States. That wouldn't be hard, I suppose. But the French President Macron, he was calling for recognition of a Palestinian state.
A few days ago, right?
The Israeli Foreign Ministry called this a crusade against the Jewish state. The British government expressed concern and criticism of the Israeli government's campaign in Gaza and the humanitarian crisis and the restrictions being put on humanitarian aid. That was for me very unexpected, because the British government is not typical of them to criticize the Israeli government, is it?
That's very well known, right?
So I think from Iran's perspective moving forward, they may well be looking to try and improve relations with European states, because there could be potential there, and that may bring them more security guarantees moving forward in the future. It could possibly do so. So
still, seems like EU is still swearing, right? But the US remain quite firm from your perspective. So since you're speaking of the BRI, right, and China, so maybe we jump to the last topic of this talk, maybe. So what about Russia and China, right, on this war? Both Russia and China have maintained quite close relations, haven't they, with Iran in recent times? They've got some shared interests in different areas. Perhaps one of the most important
ones for me is that they have a shared vision of what world order should look like. And so all three, Russia, China and Iran, have been pursuing this kind of alternative world order, which is very much, if not in opposition, but in contestation of the liberal world order which we've had in previous decades, right? So now, this liberal world order has included the degrading of the principle of sovereignty and non-intervention. So, such as, for example, through the spread of human rights, humanitarian intervention, responsibility to protect, and
they breach all of that.
Exactly. Yes. Iran, Russia, and China, they want to reassert the principle of territorial sovereignty, non-intervention, because this would perhaps ensure the stability and the survival of their states. So this is part
ironically, right? Yeah.
and this is kind of paradoxical in light of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, right? But anyway, this is an important part of their vision, I think, of this new world order that they want to pursue. This also includes they are very much against the idea of unilateral sanctions, which is maybe not surprising given that Russia and Iran have been subject to sanctions regimes by the US and others. So Russia and China, they have tried to pursue the Iran nuclear question using multilateral frameworks and using diplomacy and negotiation. There are also economic relations between Russia and China and Iran. So they've cooperated in arms trade, Russia and Iran. There's cooperation in the hydrocarbon sector as well. Russia has also been assisting Iran in its civilian nuclear program. And we mentioned also the Belt and Road Initiative, and China is, in fact, I understand, is Iran's biggest trade partner. They buy a lot of oil and gas from Iran. Iran is going to have a fairly prominent position in the Belt and Road Initiative, it seems, as well. So there seems to be there's certain areas where they have been cooperating together. And they may well be looking to weaken the influence of the United States in the MENA region. But having said that, this doesn't mean that Russia and China would be willing to intervene in support of an Iran under attack. There's no treaty obligations there. Russia has an ongoing war in Ukraine. China doesn't seem to be interested in getting involved in violent conflicts.
It seems like this for a decade, right?
I think they're more interested in expanding their economic influence, using their economic power. So for me, it was always very doubtful that any of those two, Russia or China, would have gotten involved in this war between Israel and Iran. I just couldn't see it, and perhaps this sort of factored into the US decision to join Israel and launch its own strikes.
I hope not, but anyway, maybe I'm the idealist. Okay, thanks a lot, Matthew. And I think that's it's like from what Matthew said, is lots of things remain to be seen. Right, it's now a very ongoing situation despite the ceasefire. It seems like Israel would not back down for so long, and the U.S. position in MENA is very crucial. Right, they still have a lot of interest there. So lots remain to be seen. But as the idealist side of me, hope it's not accelerate again, right?
Yes, and I think also just to make one final point, I was talking about the rapprochement between Iran and Saudi Arabia, but a lot still remains to be seen there as well, because at the end of the day, these regimes, they haven't changed in character.
Yeah.
So we still have an absolute monarchy in Saudi Arabia. We still have an Islamic Republic in Iran. So any rapprochement between the two still has a long way to go.
Yeah, it wouldn't be easy. Yeah.
I think they promised not to interfere in each other's business, their affairs, but whether or not that will hold is just another question. So
I see. Yeah. So in many areas. So I hope all of our audience will catch up right, to the world situation, right, as our program name will catch up. So yeah. Hope we don't have to talk about this again. I hope there's no war again. And thank you for today. And thanks again for Ajahn Matthew to come and give us a very in-depth knowledge about the topic. So yeah.
thank you very much.
Thank you very much.